Okay. All right. Well, good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. Thank you again for joining another HPMAT Mentor Advisory session. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Again, I'm Tunde Agboke with HP's Government Affairs team. I'm excited today for the fact that we have two new guests who haven't spoken to this group yet. I'm going to let them do a little self-introduction. But before we get started, I just want to remind everybody that we are recording. So if you do not want to be on camera, please don't feel pressured to get on camera. But if you'd like to, again, you're welcome to jump on camera. With that said, I'm going to pass the mic to our two guests today. The first of which, Liz, would you mind introducing yourself to the group?
Sure. Hi, very nice to meet everybody. I'm super excited to be here today. This is my first visit with 1 million teachers in HPMAT, and I'm just feeling a little nervous, a little excited. But I'm here because I've been at HP for 11 years now, but I also have worked in the marketing and advertising industry for almost 30 years. So I'm here because I've been a people manager and a mentor for lots of folks over time, and I'm hoping that what I can offer in terms of advice might be helpful for some of you. And also 1 Million Teachers is an organization super close to my heart because I come from a family of teachers. My mom was a teacher, my dad was a professor, my grandparents were teachers. And I was a huge disappointment because I went into advertising. So I'm excited to be here today. So thanks for letting me speak, Tunde.
Thank you, Liz. We're excited to have you here. And Lanre, I'll pass the mic to you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good to connect. My name is Lanre Phillips. Resident in Nigeria, been in HP for 4 years. I'm responsible for education in Central Africa. I am also very, very exceedingly passionate about education. And I think Liz and I share being born into education in common because my mom also was a teacher. I have a personal dream to see in my lifetime, very audacious dream, to see in my lifetime 1 out of every 2 children in Africa have access to devices. So that's what drives me, and that's what drives my love for the job that I currently do. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you very much, Lanre. So I guess let's jump right into it. So today's topic is revolving around the use of technology in off-the-grid areas. So both of you talked about coming from families that were full of educators, right? So I think my first question for either of you is, have you ever had experience working or knowing folks who have been forced to work in areas that were off the grid and they didn't necessarily have access to the same technology that you would have if you were in a more digitally connected city? Lanre, throw it first to you.
Yeah, I did. It's certainly where I live in this part of the world. I live in Nigeria. This part of the world, I certainly have been in touch with people who are staying off grid. As a matter of fact, at some point in time in my career, to a very long time ago, part of the places I worked were actually off grid. So yes, several parts in this part of the world remain off grid, and so yes, there's some significant experience in those locations.
Thank you, Lanre. Liz?
Well, I'm, I suppose, lucky enough to not have had experience with that personally. I was thinking about this and thinking about what to answer to that question. And the only advice that I have is I am actually old enough to remember working before there was personal computers, personal printers, or the internet. And so, you know, having experience in terms of just being creative in how you support folks, I think is really more what we're here to talk about today.
Certainly. Sorry, couldn't find my mute button there for a second. Completely agree with that about how can we support folks. So then I guess my next question would be right back to you, Liz, talking about how we can support and empower folks to help them stay connected when they are in off the grid type of situations. Any insights or advice that you would want to share in terms of you as a mentor working with a mentee that might not be as digitally connected?
Well, first of all, it's obviously taking advantage of those connection points when you can have them. And when you are a mentor to somebody, I think the most important piece is to really ensure two things. One, that they feel supported by you because you listen and you're there to help. And second, that they feel empowered to make decisions on their own. And so it's those two components together that can really help anyone that you work with, but especially for a mentee, making sure that they feel like they have the tools at their disposal to make decisions when you're not there. But then when you are there and when you are able to connect, that you're there to listen and to hear what they're saying so that you can help provide answers.
I love that. Thank you, Liz. Thank you. Same question, Lanre. Any
Yeah.
insights you can help share?
Similar to what Lisa said, I also agree and think also that mentorship has to do with hand holding. So mentorship is not just talking about how to do it, but also hand holding your mentees so that you get to do it together. One of the beautiful things about mentorship is it's expected that mentees don't make the same errors that you made earlier during your own journey. And that's why mentorship is exceedingly important. Now, back to the issue of how do you ensure that you give adequate support in off-grid areas. There's so many things that technology has brought to the forefront. Unfortunately, not every part of the world is exposed to the same level of technology. So in this part of the world where we live, we have people that are actually out of even the central power grid. So you're not connected to, there are parts of Nigeria, for instance, that are not connected to the power grid, not to talk of having internet connectivity or other types of networks. So I think that since as a mentor, you understand that it is your role to handhold these mentees, we would need to probably stretch ourselves for places where there are no internet. You probably want to do phone calls or SMSs, just stretch yourself a bit more to be able to reach out to these people. In certain cases, if you can ensure physical contact, why not? I learned, for instance, during COVID that we in this part of the world also we seem to have underplayed the impact of physical interaction when we can see one another. So I had friends that went into depression because they were not having as much interaction as possible and they were just being by themselves for several weeks. So I think to an extent where you can also reach out physically, yes, you can stretch that level.
Thanks for sharing that. Okay, and that actually makes me think of something. So you mentioned kind of the different avenues you can go through to kind of connect with your mentee. So I know in the past, right, when as part of HP Mat, we've had mentors and mentees trying to connect from different countries. And I know sometimes there have been issues connecting, right, because of access to the ability to actually connect with each other. How important do you both think it is, or how much of the onus, should I say, is on the mentor to continuously extend an olive branch to try to connect when they know that the mentee is in that type of situation, right? When you know that the mentee doesn't always have access to the power grid or and the mentee isn't able to make those type of connections. So for instance, I know we've had mentors who have had set times to engage with their mentee, right? And their mentee is a no-show, and their mentee is a no-show for about a week or two. They've been emailing them, what have you, they can't get hold of them, right? And the mentor is kind of getting frustrated because they're thinking, hey, I'm taking my time out. But then all of a sudden the mentee shows back up and they're like, yeah, so I haven't had access to electricity for the last 3 weeks, right? So it's not that I was avoiding you, it's that I didn't even have electricity. So, I mean, how important do you both think it is? How much of the onus is on the mentee, knowing the situation of the mentee, that the mentor has to kind of continuously extend themselves? Or is it one of the situations where you're telling your mentee, well, you know, you gotta figure it out?
I can jump in on
Liz?
that one. Yeah. So you know what? I think it does have to go both ways. So as a mentor, you know, knowing that you're supporting people who can be in off-grid areas, it is important that you do take that extra step. But really, it's about communication, and it's about making sure that you're being as clear as possible. So have that conversation first, find out where they're going to be, know what they're doing, at least at a high level, so that first of all, you're not worried when you don't hear from them. But secondly, you know they're still engaged, you know they're still interested, and you can have that flexibility to let them reach out to you when they're able to. On the other hand, I would encourage you to communicate to your mentee that they need to tell you that stuff. Say, hey, I'm going to be gone for a month. You won't be able to reach me. I won't be able to make, you know, next Tuesday at 12 o'clock, but I still want to talk to you. I still have issues. I still have questions, and I still need your support. So it does go both ways, but I think the onus is on us to make sure that we're being over communicative in the way that we reach out.
Of that communication is key, definitely. Lanre?
Okay, so I see the mentee-mentor relationship just along the lines of Liz as well. So it's a symbiotic relationship, right? So if you actually want to look at, even if you want to look at it from a selfish point of view and say, what's in it for me? For the mentor, there's a whole lot in it for the mentor. You're getting fulfillment, you're getting joy, knowing that you're giving back to the society, at times, several times not being paid for it. You're getting joy also, knowing that you're causing a change by hand-holding people. For the mentees, you're getting direction, you're saving costs, ensuring that you're not making the same mistakes that your mentor made in the past. Like I said, mentorship for me is hand-holding, not just talking. It's walking the talk, hand-holding, and ensuring that your mentees don't make the same mistakes that you made in the past. So I think it's defining what both the mentor and the mentee have to benefit from the relationship, and it's usually symbiotic.
Thank you both. I completely concur with both of you saying that it's kind of it's on both of the mentor and the mentee to make sure the lines of communication are wide open. So Balaji, you have your hand raised. Would you like to come off mute and ask your question, make your comment?
I want to say I really appreciate every one of you, sir, starting with Mr. Akim. Now, my observation about this is that actually I've learned a lot in this program, but I have 3 mentees, and I've been working with at least 2, I think 2 of these 3. Now, of recent, I discovered that one of them is not responding to my messages. So I think maybe she is a bit busy. So I don't know how to go about this. So that's why I just have to say it here. Now, that's number 1. Number 2, I want to say this, but I'll be very sorry for saying it. The time of the meeting, I think it's usually 4 o'clock, and unfortunately, it coincides with the prayer time here in Nigeria. So most of the time, I may be late to enter, or at times the prayer may take about 15-20 minutes out of the time, and you have to start beginning to hold the program. So I don't know what help can the organization do to this, that I'll be able to. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And you know what, in terms of the time, that's something that we will work with 1MT team to see if we can adjust the time so it's not conflicting with fair times in Nigeria. So apologize. for that. We didn't realize we put it at that time. So we'll work on that. In terms of your initial point about the third mentee not being responsive, I guess before I go to Hakeem with what 1MT's kind of typical approaches to dealing with that mentee situation, Liz, Lanre, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about any experience you've had with dealing with unresponsive mentees?
Yeah, I'll let Liz go first.
Sure. You know what? It happens all the time. You agree to give your time to somebody, and you know, if you were dating, you would say they ghosted you. But it can happen, and you know, perhaps sometimes it's not always the right fit. Sometimes it's just they thought they would have the time and they don't. So it's up to you in terms of what do you think a reasonable amount of time to pass is? How many times have you reached back out to them? Make sure that it's enough. Make sure that you feel in your heart like you put your best effort in to reaching back out to them. If they're still not responding, it's okay to let it go. Sometimes it's just not going to be what they need.
Thank you, Liz. Lanre?
Yeah, so I also think that a part of it also has to do with the definition of the relationship at the beginning of the mentorship sessions. So, like I said earlier, if you think about this from the viewpoint of what's in it for me, there's a better understanding. So, as a mentor, if you ask yourself what exactly is in this relationship for me, and you're answering it by saying, "Hey, I'm getting joy doing this. I'm giving back to the community. I'm getting a lot of fulfillment, seeing the outcome of what I've been able to do by mentorship," then you get some satisfaction and you make out time for it. On the part of the mentee, if at the beginning you've defined the essence of what you're getting from the relationship in terms of the mentee, now, hey, I'm hand-holding you to ensure that you don't make the same mistakes that I made. I'm hand-holding you to ensure that you move faster than I did during my own time, because I know where the potholes are, I know where the issues are, and I would ensure that you don't pass through there. I'm hand-holding you to ensure that you save less cost in terms of even time, okay, to ensure that you don't make the same errors that I did. And I think in defining what that relationship is, each part would have a better understanding. Would it work at all times? Today, the answer is no. You would always find mentees that would slip away at some point in time. But I think defining it creates a better perspective.
Definitely, completely agree. To both of you's point, you can give it your best effort, but sometimes it's not going to work out, right? Hakeem, specifically talking about what, didn't mean to put you under the microscope here, but obviously one of the mentors asked a question, specifically talking about what 1MT, how you all want the mentors to respond to that type of situation. Any input you can share really quickly?
Thanks, Tunde. Typically, what we try to do is to intervene. The program team usually tries to reach out to the mentee directly. And if they're not successful, we usually advise the mentor, you know what, this is not working. I mean, so there are situations where we try to assign somebody to them. And but if that doesn't work, we wait for the next cohort, because typically this happens, this program is every cohort runs for about 6 months. But we do have those situations, and there are not many of them. And like you've all highlighted earlier, people go through stuff, people think that they will be available, and then life happens and then they're not available. But also after making reasonable attempts to reach out to the mentee, despite all best efforts, it's not working. Reaching out to the program team to say, hey, I'm kind of frustrated here. I'm not getting any response. I think at that point, there is really nothing much anybody can do than to say, you know what, well, this is it, let's move on. In some situations, you see these mentees come back and they let us know what they're going through, and we're able to allow them into another cohort. So, and it's the same thing with even the 1 million teacher Black Belt training. We see people start at the same time. Some just drop off along the way, and things go very quiet for months, and then they come back with a bang and they accelerate to the end. So, and this is, I mean, this is adult learning. Many people have families, they have other commitments. So sometimes those things take priority over the mentorship. It's not because they don't appreciate it, it's not because they don't want to be involved in it, but it's just life.
Thank you, Hakeem. Appreciate you sharing that perspective. As you said, I think in the 3 years we've been doing this, we've seen it here and there, but majority of the time we're able to kind of figure a way to make it work. So really appreciate you sharing that. One thing I wanna bring Liz and Lanre back in on. A lot of people in the chat are talking about kind of the mutual benefit that they're getting from the experience, right? That they feel they're not even sure if they're giving as much as they're getting from their mentees. I know a lot of times when we have relationships with people that we're guiding, right? We always tell them, okay, come into a relationship and make sure you're also adding value to the relationship, right? Can you kind of give mentors advice on how to coach and train their mentees to make sure that they are always adding value to relationships beyond kind of the relationship they have with their mentors, right? So any situation they're going in, how do these mentors make sure that they're equipping their mentees with the skills they need to make sure they're adding value to other relationships? And I'll throw that to you first, Liz.
Sure. One thing that I've learned through my life is pretty important is, you know, in the corporate world, we call it networking, but really it's relationship building. And so encouraging your mentees to get to know other teachers, encouraging them to get to know people in that community where they're working, and making sure that they're not just isolating themselves, but they're really becoming part of that community, because it's really what will make all the difference. They'll learn more about the kids that they're working with. They'll learn more about themselves. They'll learn about their own strengths and weaknesses, and they'll learn from other people about what they can do and what they can add to their own programs. And for me, that's a lifelong journey that we're all on. We all need relationships in our lives, but we can all benefit intellectually and professionally from finding that network of people that we can reach out to for support, that we can learn from, and just keep getting better always, because none of us are perfect.
Definitely none of us are perfect. Thank you for that, Liz. Lanre?
Yeah. For me, once again, once the definition of the relationship has been set out, the propensity for heartbreak, or like Liz called it, the propensity to be ghosted, reduces. So would it still happen? Yes, to a large extent, it could still. But one of the things I've also found out about mentorship is it's important to document the milestones. So we get so carried away with mentorship that we don't document the milestones that we're achieving. So if we document these milestones per time and we're able to share with our mentees, they would know how far they've come. For instance, somebody you're mentoring for 6 months, document the first day, okay, and the discussions you've had, the expectations you have of each other. After 1 month, come back and refer to where you are now and refer back to where you're coming from. It would amaze the mentee how much you've been able to do within 1 month. But if this is not documented and discussed, there's the possibility, because it's life, isn't it? There's so many other things that we're doing. There's the possibility just to live with this and not cherish the relationship in the manner in which you should, because you won't be able to clearly highlight all those things you've been able to benefit from the relationship.
I love that, celebrating the milestones, definitely. Okay, so before we close, I got one last question for the both of you, and it kind of really ties back to the core of what HP Mat is and the values of HP 1MT and Girl Rising. So at the core of this program, right, is making sure that we are really pushing forward the gender equity and making sure that women and girls are included in everything from an educational standpoint, so students can see women and girls in the same way they see men and boys, right? For the both of you, what does gender equity mean to you? Liz?
For me, it comes down to just giving everybody a chance, regardless of their life experience and where they come from. And so I love that this organization is supporting girls and women specifically, because in a lot of places, we know that they start out a step behind, and it's important that we are their voice for them sometimes. So really want to just say to all the mentors on the call, just keep doing what you're doing, because it makes such a huge difference.
Thank you, Liz. And Lanre?
Yeah. So I grew up in a house of boys. I'm the first of 5 boys. So for me, myself and my brothers have an unusual respect for women. So you can say in my own family, we've had that respect for women since we never had a sister. But it's not the same story in several families in this part of the world. So the call for gender equity is one that is having a struggle in this part of the world, I must confess to you, and I'm sure the guys on the call would confess as well. But it's a struggle that we all need to fight for, because it's the right thing to do. A girl or a boy is assumed, they're actually the same people. We should actually not be differentiating people, saying this is what a boy should be doing and this is what a girl should be doing, which is how many of us grew up, in that kind of environment. So yes, it's a struggle in many parts of Africa, but I'm delighted with the milestones that we're able to achieve. I'm excited to be working for a company who sees this as one of its driving forces.
Indeed. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you both for your time. Really appreciate all the thoughts and comments you have both shared. I think having your perspective and the different perspectives on this call is really allowing our mentors and us as the kind of HPMAT team to make sure that we're continuing to broaden the scope of insights that are shared with our mentors as they're kind of growing and going through their process. So appreciate the time you've taken today. Thank you very, very much. And hope you all have a phenomenal rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.